Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode. This is Marriage Made Possible, where we believe all things are possible, including happy and great marriages.
Absolutely.
I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Troy. And we are still in our Conflict to Connected series. So we're
Yes,
talking about moving from
conflict to connection.
Exactly. So this is episode 7. And in case you missed the last episode, we talked about staying calm. So not allowing your emotions to get the better of you when you're in a conflict or when you're trying to resolve conflict with your spouse. Next, we talked about staying on topic. So, not bringing up past arguments or things from last week or last month or last year, but staying focused on
Whatever the present issue is.
exactly. And lastly, we talked about active listening. So,
Yes.
not listening in order to respond or get your point across, but actually listening to your spouse, hearing their heart, and they're responding accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so those were all of the tips we gave in our last episode, episode 6. So if you haven't had the opportunity, you can go back and watch that video. And today we're just going to continue talking about some of the things that couples can do while you're in the midst of conflict to make sure that that conflict does not pull you all further apart, but to bring you actually closer together. Because we know, in marriage that you're going to have some type of conflict or argument, like those things will come up, but it's more so how you engage, in the midst of those conflict that really makes a difference on how your marriage will be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, if you found any value or have found value so far in what we're talking about or any of our topics, we want to encourage you to like, share, comment, catch us on all the interwebs at Marriage Made Possible. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Absolutely.
So, what are we diving into today?
So today we are going to continue this conversation on the things that you should do in the midst of conflict in order to make sure that you are expressing how you're feeling, you're dealing with whatever the issue is, and that you all are finding a solution and moving forward. Okay. So the first tip we would give to couples today in the midst of conflict in order to stay connected is to really just stay open-minded, right? So a lot of times with when we're in a relationship, we can only see things from our perspective, and it really takes a lot of hard work to try to see things from another person's perspective.
Absolutely.
For example, you may not have, thought that you're using a certain tone of voice, but maybe your wife or your husband has said like, hey, don't use that tone of voice with me, or don't, you're kind of snappy, or you sounded irritated in your tone. And the first thing we want to say is what?
No, I'm not.
Right. No, I'm not. Right.
I'm not using that tone.
Right. But it's very important in
You're
the
being
midst.
sensitive.
Absolutely. So in the midst of conflict, to make sure you are keeping an open mind and considering what your spouse is actually saying could be true. So just stay open-minded to what they're saying and to consider what they're saying.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that we're not talking about anything that we haven't already been through or haven't gone through ourselves. And just even as I'm sitting here listening to my wife, I'm like, man, I can think of so many times early on in our marriage where I wasn't open-minded and she would bring something to me and I'm on the defense, my guard is up, and I'm not trying to listen with understanding. I'm not trying to solve the problem. I'm not trying to work towards a solution. Like my mind is totally closed off. I don't care about her point of view. I care about winning this argument.
Yeah.
I don't care about the battle. I care about winning the war.
Yeah.
And so that's the wrong. That's in case you didn't know, that's totally wrong. That's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing here in marriage. So stay open-minded. As my wife said, be open to your spouse's point of view.
Yeah, and then also just to add to that point is to be empathetic towards them as well. Kind of ask yourself, like, what is it like to be on the receiving end of me as a person, right? Like, we, in our own narrative, we always kind of write ourselves as the hero and always getting things right. But what is it like to be married to you?
Wow.
Like, what is that like? Put yourself in your spouse's shoes. And that will also kind of help you all to stay open-minded when it comes to solving whatever those issues are.
if at any point in time when my wife asked that question, what is it like to be married to you, you cringed, you have some work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we all have work to do. There's always something we can work on to become a better spouse. Yeah. So the next thing I would say, other than being open-minded, is very important. Is to use more of like we and us statements
Okay.
instead of I or you
That's a good
statements.
one.
So when we use statements like we or us, when you're in the midst of conflict and you're trying to find a solution, it really shows like this unity, this togetherness, this like we're in it together. We're trying to find this solution together. You don't want to
Right.
use like the I and you statements to isolate or to show separation within the marriage.
Yeah.
So using words like we or us shows that, you know, we're a unit. You know, we're two becoming one and we're trying to move forward together.
Absolutely. And this is something that we had to learn and that we had to
Yes.
practice. Even in the midst of arguments, even stopping and saying, you know, I or you, and then catching ourselves and reeling it back
Yeah.
in. And it's so easy in the midst of conflict to say, well, I XYZ and you XYZ. And then you begin to take on that accusatory, which then in turn makes your spouse put their defenses
Right.
up. But we want to remember that when we use we language, we remind not only our spouse, but we remind ourselves
Yes.
as we hear it that we're working towards a solution, that we're on the same team, that I'm committed to you, you're committed to me. It's not you against me against you. We're not divided. We're not two different teams trying to get a win. We want the marriage to win
Right.
ultimately.
Yeah.
We want the marriage to succeed. So we use we statements and we say, how can we move
Yes.
forward? How can we work through this? Or what's the solution
Absolutely.
for us?
Yeah.
Or what can we do better in this situation?
That's a
Instead
really good
of
point.
pointing the finger at your spouse and saying, well, what can you do better?
Yeah.
What do you need to do? Because I'm
Right.
perfect. You know, I
Yes.
got it all together.
Yeah.
You know, obviously.
And then also what it does when you use those we and us statements, like if your spouse does have an issue, when you use we and us, it shows your spouse that you're on their team, that you are in it together with them to try to work through whatever that situation is.
Yeah.
So it may be like an individual issue, like I may have an issue or my husband may have an issue. But when we use we or us, it shows the other person that we're in this together. Like, yes, you may have an issue with this, but I'm on your side. I'm going to stand by you, and we are going to find a solution together, right? To let you know that you're not trying to fight this thing by yourself. That's important.
Yeah, that's really important for your spouse to understand that you guys are on the same team. And it may be one of those things where you can know, and I think early on that was something where it's like, I know we're on the same team. Like, I know, but the way that I was coming off to you
Yeah.
seemed like I was your enemy or I
Right.
was your rival or, you know, I'm trying to win or,
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
so you want to, even if you know it and it's something that you think it's kind of like saying, you know, I love you, but
Right.
if I never tell you that I love
You're
you,
going to question every now and
right,
again. Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, use those we, use those us statements, walk this thing out together, lock
Yeah.
arms. Remember, you guys are on the same
Yeah.
team.
And that's the beautiful thing about marriage is that you're making a commitment to one person and you are going to go through life together with this person. So in our marriage mission statement, we have a line that says that we are devoted to each other or committed to each other in every season, right? In every season of that person's life, you are saying I do to that version of that person. Because the day that you get married to someone, they're not going to stay that in the same person, right?
Right.
So and that's not life. In life you grow, you change, you're supposed to get better. And oftentimes we only get better during those trials and tribulations that we go through in life, the dark times. That's kind of what proves our character and helps us to become better. So with your spouse, you're going to see your spouse in different seasons of their life. And some of those seasons may be awesome and great. And some of those seasons, they may be battling an addiction. They may be, you know, dealing with mental health issues. They may be, you know, trying to search for a sense of purpose in their life. And you making that commitment to be your spouse's partner for life, you're saying I do to them. And so you want to make sure at every single chance you get, you let them know, like, yes, I still do. Like, you are dealing with some issues from childhood, and it's making you act a certain way, but I still say, yes, I do, forever, for better or for worse.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's beautiful, babe. That is so important. And I just want to add a tangent real quick. That is the benefit and the beauty of having a marriage mission statement.
Yes.
Okay, at no point in time. And a marriage mission statement simply outlines what the mission is for your marriage, where you are going, so that when you start to stray, when you start to deviate, you look at that marriage
And it
mission
sets a
statement,
standard.
right? And you measure yourself, you measure yourself, you measure your marriage against the standard that you have created, and say, hey, am I living up to this? Am I living up to the marriage mission statement? And I just want to encourage you guys, if you don't have a marriage mission statement, please, please, please take time with your spouse, pray, talk, whatever you need to do. Take some time, take a weekend, get away, make it fun, make it a date. Hey, maybe rent one of those cool cabins, maybe do a getaway trip, go somewhere and just take time and write out your marriage mission statement. Hey, what does our marriage mean? What do we want our marriage to be? What's the standard? What does that look like for us?
Yeah.
And it'll really help you to stick to it. At no point in time in marriage should you ever say, I didn't sign up for that. And I can think back to when I was in the military and we were just spitting out all the soldier's creed and whatever your job was in the military, you had a song and a mission statement for that. And I can remember proudly saying, I will defend the country against enemies, foreign and domestic. At no point in time when I deployed, when I went to combat, when I went to war, did I ever say, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for that. Oh, I didn't sign up for this. Oh, I didn't sign up for that. Because I joined and I signed up and I went through basic training with the understanding that it could get ugly, that it could get bad, that it could get thick real quick. Look, it's the same thing in marriage. So I would encourage you to get that mission statement. Once you say I do, it's not one and done.
Yeah.
It's I do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So when we say in our marriage mission statement that we are committed to each other, I'm committed to you in every season, it means regardless of what we're going through, the good, the bad, the thick, the thin, we got money, we don't got money, for sickness, for health. I feel good. You don't
Right.
feel good. COVID is here. COVID is gone. COVID is back again. It's the second wave. Regardless of whatever the situation is, you peed me off. I peed you off. We are staying committed to each other for every season. So this goes along with the using the we and the us language.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it lets your spouse know that you're on the same team and that you're going to find the solution together. And that's the next tip that we will give you all. Like when you are having these discussions or conflicts or arguments, whatever you want to call them, what's the solution, right? Like, yes, you want to be heard. You want to be able to tell your spouse what you feel, what you think. Those things are so important. But after all of that is said and done, what is the solution, right? So it's important to focus on the solution and not dwell on the problem. So, yes, you can tell your spouse like, hey, this bothered me, or I feel like this, or when we do this, you want to make sure you create that space to be able to tell your spouse what you're feeling and what you're thinking. But then let's come together and let's find out what the solution is together.
Yeah, that just kind of reminds me of a quote that we heard earlier this week. And, the quote says that it's okay to fight in marriage if
you're fighting for your marriage.
Okay, see, I was about to miss. See, that's why you got to have the better half, because I was about to totally slaughter it. So what is it again, Paige?
Yeah, so it's okay to fight in marriage as long as you're fighting for your marriage. So we heard that from 2 Equals 1.
Yeah, podcast.
A podcast. What was the couple?
Jimmy and Irene, I want to say.
Yes, Pastor Jimmy and Irene.
I think. We're sorry, Jimmy and Irene, if we messed your names up. But yeah, 2 Equals 1 podcast. We would encourage you, check it out. Some great stuff.
But that's okay. It's okay to fight in your marriage as long as you're fighting for your marriage. So, what's the solution? If we're fighting so that, my husband grows, and, if the issue is I feel like he has no patience, and he could use patience just as a characteristic, it's okay if we have an argument about the fact that, he needs to have more patience, right? Because at the end of the day,
Whoa.
he's going to grow in his patience. We're praying.
Why are you not using we statements? Do you mean we need to grow in our
Yes, we
patience?
need to grow
Us
in
as
our
a couple
patience.
because we're one?
Yes, you're right. But that was just an example. You're patient, Brave. You're really good
Oh,
with being patient.
baby.
But no, that's the point. Is to focus on whatever the solution is and not to dwell on the problem.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you're fighting in marriage, to fight for your marriage, if you're moving towards a solution, then we're good. If you're
Yeah.
just fighting and you're fighting like cats and dogs and it's just a repetitive cycle, you need to hold. You need to push the stop button. You need to
Take a time out.
get off the train at this stop right here. Exit stage left, whatever you need to do, because what you're doing, if you're just fighting and it has no end and it has no purpose and it has no solution, is you're building animosity and you're
Yeah.
building bitterness towards your
Yes,
spouse.
yes.
And instead of seeing them as your teammate, you are seeing them as the enemy.
Right.
So we encourage intense fellowship. That's what it's called. That's
Yeah.
what fighting and arguing in marriage is. Intense fellowship
Yeah.
is great when we are coming together. I don't see it Jasmine's way. She doesn't see it my way. We don't see it eye to eye. But in that intense fellowship, we're always going to be thinking in the back of our head, at some point in time, we have to come to a solution.
Right.
Like, it's not just my way or the highway. It's
Right.
not your way or no way. It's, okay, all right, babe, so you feel that way. I feel this way.
How do we move forward?
Right. Where do
from
we
here?
go from here?
Yeah.
What's the solution?
Yeah, and something great too that you all can do, and this might take practice, is to, once you all get into the habit and the routine of having those weekly check-ins with your couple on Marriage Mondays, hopefully, before you even bring an issue to your spouse, already kind of think of what the solution could be potentially to whatever the issue is you're bringing, right? So if, say for example, I'm feeling like, man, I'm doing like all of the housework, by myself, right? If that's how I'm feeling, the outcome can be two different ways. Instead of me harping on the fact that I feel like I'm doing everything by myself and I'm carrying the load by myself, instead of just dropping and doing an emotional dump on Troy and letting him know that, I can come to him and say, you know what, babe, this is how I've been feeling. Could we work out a different schedule to where it feels like we're sharing the load? Something like that, to try
Perfect.
to try to have a solution already before you approach your spouse.
Diplomatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to be.
Yeah.
Something else along the lines of seeking a solution is don't dwell on the problem. You don't want to just continue to dwell on the problem, because as you continue to think about it, you turn it over in your mind. It just makes you angrier and angrier over and over again.
Yeah. So it kind of goes with one of the tips we gave last week, is to really just stay on topic. So meaning you're not going to keep going back in the past, right? You're not going to keep revisiting. If you talked about it, you forgave each other, you found the solution, then really move forward. Really move forward, and don't keep going back revisiting things that should have already be solved. Now, that's not to say that if you all have had some type of trauma or some type of serious breach of trust or something like that that needs to be rehashed until there's healing there, then, that's something that's a completely different situation than what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But if it's something, simple, level 1, level 2,
Right.
then, talk about it, find a solution, and keep moving forward. Because you all, as we were talking, when you come together with your spouse, you have a purpose. You have something that you're put here on this earth to do.
Wow.
And so you don't want to waste time, the time that you could be moving more towards that purpose or moving
Right.
more towards your goals. You don't want to use that time wasting time getting into, arguments and staying upset with each other and all these different things. Like, find the solution, move forward, and, crush your goals or keep moving towards whatever purpose you feel like God has placed you here for.
Right, guys. Hey, don't allow your time to be stolen because of ineffective communication. That's the whole heart behind this series, moving from conflict to connected, because we don't want your time to be stolen. Because guess what? Hey, we'll be transparent. Our time was stolen.
Yeah.
We could have been doing some of the things that we were
That we're
called to
doing
do, that
now.
we're doing now. a lot sooner
Yeah.
in our marriage, but we allowed our time to be stolen because of ineffective communication, because being stuck on conflict and staying in conflict and not moving to connection.
Yeah.
We're passing like two ships in the night. We're trying to wait each other out.
Who's
I'm
gonna
not gonna say anything.
apologize
Who's
first?
gonna apologize first? I'm not gonna say anything to her. She don't say anything to me. Walking in the house, sup? Like roommates.
Yeah.
Until one of us had to break down. Hey, don't be that way. Look,
Yeah.
man, move from
Yeah.
conflict to connected as soon as
Yes,
possible.
as soon as
If you're a
possible.
processor, take that time to process, do what you need to do, but don't drag it out. Don't make it a all week, a all month thing. Hey, get through that thing. Set a time limit. As we said in previous episodes, we have an hour. Look, an hour is our callback time. I don't care how mad you are, how upset you are. Within an hour, we need to be coming together and seeking a solution.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, hey, you all, thanks for tuning in, for listening to our tips on moving from conflict to connection. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, be sure to go back and look at those tips because they all kind of go together. What we're talking about with communication and marriage. So, we appreciate you all listening to our tips, and we will catch you all again.